Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. This is actually part 5 of the Building the Matrix series. And with this actual video, I'm going to hopefully illustrate to you guys the kind of paradoxical statement of the actual Building the Matrix concept. You know, the fact that while we have Elon Musk talking about trying to break us out of the matrix that we're already existing in, you know, whatever that could mean, while we're simultaneously creating a digital matrix, a virtual world, a virtual reality, a matrix itself. You see, while all of this is still going on, we are experiencing a massive shift. You see, so all of these things, exactly what I'm going to be basically talking about, all of this stuff coincides with one another. So with that being said, let's get right into it. As I said before, you know, with Elon Musk actually trying to break us out of this matrix, you know, the fact that we have technocrats, billionaires, tech billionaires, people with all kinds of money and all kinds of technological resources to do these types of things, where they can do all kinds of different quantum computing matrices, where they can create all kinds of different simulations of what we would consider society. You see, the fact that these people who now have the power, the technology, and the money behind it are starting to question, well, is this only the reality that we're in? Is this the only place that we're operating? That sounds rather radical, but that's exactly where we're at. What's even more radical is the fact that they have not disclosed what exactly it is that they're doing to try to break us outside of said matrix. You see, because whenever we start looking at the idea of us living in some kind of reality as if we're the Sims, or if this is some kind of holographic reality, you see, and that gets into the metaphysical studies of the holographic universe, you know, the electric universe, and whether or not we're living in avatars and all kinds of other philosophical debates that come into play with our reality. You see, that's why I'm constantly saying in other parts of the work, we need to understand what it means to be human. Because when we have things like this, whenever we have billionaires whose motives for breaking outside of this matrix, outside of this three-dimensional realm, we don't know. But whenever we have these kinds of people conducting experiments on a large scale, that's what we need to focus on. That's where we need to look. You see, who is to say that we're not living in some matrix already, and that, you know, when we sleep, we're not being transported to another dimension or transported to another existence? You see, time, as we see it, couldn't be as linear as we see. We already understand that it's made up. There's all kinds of different ways that we have to interpret living in a matrix. And if you ask me, the idea that we have Elon Musk out there charioting the idea that we are now starting to debate this, that we're bringing this up into the status quo, that this is being brought inside of people's subconscious, that's good. But on the other hand, what I don't think people are realizing is how we're doing just that ourselves, how we're creating the very same matrix that people are trying to break out of. And what am I trying to say? What am I trying to illustrate whenever I'm talking about these types of things? It's the idea that through technology, through things like augmented reality, social virtual reality, all the different things that we are now putting inside of technology, inside of society, inside of the community, inside of ourselves, so to speak, that is now changing how we interact with the world. Right there, where the Oculus is demoing augmented social virtual reality. The idea that social media meets social reality. This is what I mean by them trying to co-opt our natural growth, co-opt where we're supposed to go. The whole idea behind building the matrix is that we're building a prison for ourselves. Is Facebook not is Facebook not that prison already? Do we not loathe going to this thing that we usually go to every day? I mean, people make it a thing not to have a profile there. But it's because of how much Facebook has affected society. As I've said before, even the Vatican has a Facebook. the United Nations has, of Facebook, the technocrats, the digital media, the digital mafia, these people who are running this type of operation, basically, this technotronic, this sorcery laden experiment, basically, where they're trying to absorb our souls. You see what they're doing whenever they're forcing us inside of this matrix, forcing us to limit our thoughts to 160 characters, forcing us to censor ourselves, forcing us to basically operate inside of their parameters. You see how that extracts us from the real world. You see how that extracts what we're capable of, how it limits what we really can do. I mean, the idea that we have Facebook and Samsung and even some Chinese developers, all kinds of different branches of people racing to create this synthetic reality. That should illustrate to people the times that we're in, and the fact that what they're trying to do is just that, is rewrite and render reality according to their wishes. This is why we're seeing life take on such a strange shape. This is why people are so desensitized, because of things like technology, because of things like, who knows, technology, sociology, all the different things that come into play. And for everybody that was listening right now, what you were hearing was my phone basically restart because either it overheated or something, and simultaneously my laptop broke down while discussing both of these topics. So I'm going to keep this recording just to illustrate to you guys that we are living in not necessarily an augmented reality, but we are living in a bigger matrix than most people even really like to think. Well, now that that's situated, I wanted to play for you guys a clip from the game Saints Row 3 because I feel like, this is emblematic of basically what's going on. The fact that you could be transported to another place mentally, while what you would consider your physical body, we're not necessarily sure because there's two different types of realities that you're working in. You see, your physical body could be here in this three-dimensional plane, while your mind could be transferred to something else entirely. And this is all because of the technology, because of the times that we're in, the things that are going on, the capabilities that we have. You see, one of the angles I wanted to get into that I'm sure you're very much well aware of if you've paid attention to any of my work or if you've paid attention to any of the other researchers' work these days in regards to rewriting reality is things like CERN, the Mandela effect, or the paradigm shift, the ascension process, us switching from the 3-dimension to the 4th dimension. All of these types of things, they work together in synergy. Because as I keep trying to illustrate throughout this series, is there are a number of paradoxical things that we have to look at whenever we look at what we could consider life, what we would consider reality. Whenever I'm talking about things such as punching holes into our universe or into our world, our plane, our existence in the Tethered Verse series, what I'm basically trying to show to you guys is that there is an energy exchange. While we might be venturing into an entirely different universe, into an entirely different plane of existence, that energy has to come here. There has to be an exchange. There is no, energy can either be created or destroyed, merely rearranged or transferred. That's what I'm talking about. When people are doing these types of things, exchanging one thing for another, as I said before, the technology absorbing our souls, we have to build this matrix that would basically rewrite us. And that's exactly what's going on with things like CERN and the Mandela effect. These are perfect examples of that bigger reality, of reality being somewhat malleable, or people taking manifest destiny way too far. Basically, what I'm talking about in so many different ways is transforming the very fundamental way in which we interact with the world. This is why so many things are happening on the paranormal realm, on the supernatural realm, on even the political scale. You see, there's so many different things occurring to where, whenever you think about it, Elon Musk asking whether or not we're living in a simulation does make sense. You see, so there's all kinds of different things that you have to look at whenever we start asking ourselves, what does reality truly mean? How are we interacting with it? What does it mean to be a human? How do we go throughout what we would consider our life? Is this the only life? And these are more questions that we have to start asking ourselves, which fundamentally bring us back to the idea or the single question of, what does it mean to be human?
Over 20,000 genes, 3 billion letters of DNA. DNA consists of 2 strands twisted into a double helix and held together by a simple pairing rule. A pairs with T and G pairs with C. Our genes shape who we are as individuals and as a species. Genes also have profound effects on health, and thanks to advances in DNA sequencing, researchers have identified thousands of genes that affect our risk of disease. To understand how genes work, researchers need ways to control them. Changing genes in living cells is not easy, but recently a new method has been developed that promises to dramatically improve our ability to edit the DNA of any species, including humans.
So I'm sure you're starting to wonder, well, what does this basically mean? What do all these types of things mean? What I'm basically trying to tell you guys is that in so many different ways, shapes, and forms, they're trying to change how you interact with the world, change how you view the world, and change how you see yourself. As I'm constantly saying, the concept behind the building the Matrix is they have to destroy the exterior world. They have to destroy the old world order. They have to destroy the old kingdom of God, the human body. They have to destroy that so that we willingly go into this new world order, this new matrix, this new reality, this paradigm shift that they have prepared, that they're creating. You see, and that's how all of this works. How all of this comes to a point is they're using, as I can keep trying to illustrate to you guys, is they're using our natural growth, our natural renaissance, and they're trying to subvert it with technology, with this type of mindset that they can expand our experience that through things like synthetic sense stimulation, that they can change how we interact in the universes that we do interact in the dimensions that we do interact in. Because as I'm always saying, there's way more to us. There's way more to humanity, to an individual, to the soul, to how we operate. And whenever people come in with types of technology, whenever they come in changing how we experience things, changing our frequency, changing how we give off signals in this larger world, well, that should show you their intentions. While I'm constantly trying to say Renaissance is the way to fight against all of this conformity, to fight against all this tyranny, you can see what happens whenever people try to diversify their lives, whenever they try to diversify anything else outside of the status quo. It is seen as crazy. It is seen as wild. It is seen as exuberant. But whenever these people come in with their technology, their fancy tests, all the different things that they have, implantable technology, wearable technology, all kinds of different Rorschach tests, however you would like to see it, their scientific method, well, we see what that ultimately does to the human being, to the status and the collective consciousness. You see, they come in saying it'll be something magnificent, being able to eradicate diseases, being able to offer us disease-free lives, immortality, the perfect life, the fountain of youth, as offered by Apple, as offered by Google. So make sure you pay your subscription. You see what this all comes back down to, what it is I'm trying to illustrate to you guys, is that through all of these different things that we're doing, we are creating a bigger reality. We are creating our own pocket universe, our own digital matrix. And if we don't stop to think about the kinds of morals, the kinds of ethics, the kinds of things, the echoes that we leave for generations to come, well then we'll be doomed to create and make the same mistakes. You see. But that's all I really got for you guys. I hope in just this segment alone I illustrated to you the idea of behind building the Matrix. I know this wasn't one of my longer episodes, but like I said, I hope I gave it to you guys short and sweet and simple enough to illustrate to you what is really going on and how we're operating in a larger reality, but at the same time they're trying to have us operate in their 160 characters available timeshare. And that doesn't work for anybody because freedom is just that. It does not need a cage. But like I said, that's all I really got for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant. Expose lies and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, out.